Boy, that got everybody quiet. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to council on a beautiful day outside again today. This is the 34th meeting of the 143rd Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. And I'll hand it over to our clerk for the Indigenous land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Your Worship. We acknowledge that the land on which we meet is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Attawandaronk, Neutral, and Mississauga peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also recognize that this land is now home to the Munsee Delaware Nation, Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, and Oneida Nation of the Thames. This land was settled through Treaty Number 2, the McKee Purchase Treaty of 1790, and we as beneficiaries of the treaty recognize our collective responsibilities to the land and water.
And I'll ask, any of the members have any disclosures of interest on tonight's agenda? Seeing none?
Your Worship, we now move into the minutes. I have a motion that the minutes of the meetings held on 11th and 12th of September be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Gibson. Thank you.
Questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next order of business, our presentations. We have 3 civic awards to present this evening. If I could call them up in order. In this order, first we'll have Eve Buchkowski. Eve has been described as an active cyclist and member of the Attack Racing. At the 2023 Junior Track Nationals, Eve was recognized within the cadet girls field, bringing home individual gold medals in Kieran, Scratch, and 500-meter time trials. Eve was also a member of teams winning Team Pursuit, Team Spring, and Madison. Eve's dedication and hard work allowed her to recently race at an upgraded under 17 at the Junior Road Championships in Edmonton, where Eve learned a lot, which will help her in the future. May her success in cycling inspire future generations of athletes and serve as a shining example of what can be achieved through dedication, determination, and teamwork.
Great. We have a pin for you today and a certificate saying all those really nice things about you. And come on in if you want to take the please. Beautiful. Great. Dan.
I note she wears high top chucks too, so that's great.
Next, we have Brody Mann for the Sport Individual National Award. Brody has been described as an active cyclist and member of Attack Racing. Brody competed at the Junior Canadian Track Cycling Championships in Bromont, Quebec in April. He was the winner in the scratch race in an incredibly competitive under 17 boys field. Brody had also been selected to Team Ontario, where they won in Team Pursuit in an outstanding race where they lapped their competitors. Brody has recently returned from Edmonton to compete in Junior Road Nationals as an upgraded under 17 and finished in the top half of his races among under 19 men. May your success in cycling inspire future generations of athletes and serve as a shining example of what can be achieved through dedication, determination, and teamwork.
Recognizing you on your civic award. All that great stuff you did. Great for our city and for you. Thank you very, very much. And civic award for you to hang up someplace nice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Anna Musket for the Sport Individual National Award. Anna has always been an athlete, competing in ice hockey, soccer, and in grade 9, taking up field hockey. She successfully made the under-16 Team Ontario field hockey this summer after only taking up the sport 2 years ago. The team went 3 wins, 3 losses at the recent nationals in Brampton in August of 23. Team Ontario lost in the bronze medal game. Anna was named player of the game for Team Ontario during one of her games at nationals. Anna is a team player in ice hockey for the St. Thomas Panthers, a team player for ice and field hockey and soccer for her high school, as well as field hockey for AOS Godrich. Athletes definitely run in the family, with her father and aunt being successful athletes and previous Civic Award recipients. May your success in ice hockey, soccer, and field hockey inspire future generations of athletes and serve as a shining example of what can be achieved through dedication, determination, and teamwork.
Running in the family. Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Now the exciting part is done. You're not obligated to stay and watch the rest. But you can, it's okay. Madam Clerk, next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Their parents may wish to go. Next order of business are deputations. We have one deputation this evening. Ethel de la Penetier will be presenting regarding the Talbot Trail Toastmasters Club.
Ethel, you know how all the buttons work. Are you the fill-in Ethel tonight?
Yes, I'm feeling,
Excellent.
yes, thank you. Yes, I've been trained and instructed to address you as your worship and counselors. Usually, when I speak at Toastmasters meeting, I address them as Toastmasters and guests. And since I've joined this club, Talbot Trail Toastmasters, I've heard that there are some people in this very room that were Toastmasters, including Joe Preston and Councillor Gibson. And I wish that you were all Toastmasters so that this evening I could use a Toastmaster greeting to all of you. It's still not too late. You can still join. I'm a part of this club because of what I believe it represents. Better communication and better leadership for everyone who will be a part of this community, this learning community. Better communication because we all have a voice. We all have words that we can use to help people in our community, or help to change the world. Better leadership because all of us are leaders. We all have an influence on someone. And we can influence a change in our communities or the world by sharing and telling our stories and using our words and the power of our speech. Toastmasters' mission sets the standard for our success. As it reads, we provide a supportive and positive learning environment in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. I'm told by my predecessors that Talbot Trail Toastmasters is celebrating 13 years of existence in our community of St. Thomas. That's a long time.
Yes.
And today, since the time of pandemic, we have moved to virtual meetings, and our club now not only includes people from St. Thomas, but also members from outside our community, including international visitors from countries such as Nigeria, China, the US. When some hear the term Toastmasters, they may think that we make toast, or we talk about toast, or we perhaps even give toast. But we are more than toasting. We learn and practice how to speak impromptu. We learn how to create introductions, describe dramatic adventures, tell stories, and we all do this a very supportive environment that helps us to build our self-confidence to address public audiences such as City Council, which I'm doing today. Today, we ask the City of St. Thomas to declare October Toastmasters Month and raise Toastmasters International flag on the first week of October 2023. This is a second flag for Toastmasters in Ontario. So that's a very special privilege. This city has one of the only flags of Toastmasters in the entire province. I'm also told that Lord Elgin was an original Toastmaster in the 1960s, and that there are 3 clubs that were starting in this county, with one of them being Elgin County, and the third one being Talbot Trail Toastmasters, which is my club, which was chartered in 2010. And we are pleased to say that, yes, as I said before, we are celebrating 13 years. And we have a great heritage in this city. We have trained and brought about many individuals' potential. I know I've been told that there are members from our club that have run for provincial and federal positions to serve the country and the province. I've been introduced to the youth leadership program. In fact, my children actually participated in the youth leadership program. So there are a lot of young people that we have helped. And because of all this, we've worked very closely with this community to empower entrepreneurs with out-of-the-box opportunities, inspire the youth in elementary and secondary schools to spread their wings and fly. As I said previously, some of my children were homeschooled and they participated in the youth leadership program, and I've learned how to speak to the public. Immigrants like myself have come to Toastmasters and learned how to better communicate and connect with the community in our new home. Considering this heritage and the impact of Talbot Trail Toastmasters on this city of St. Thomas, I think this deputation, this request that October be named Toastmasters Month, the flag be raised to inspire the community to build their confidence for the future is well worth it. So we would like this opportunity to share this special honor in this event by making this deputation at this year meeting for the official flag raising for October. Again, my sources have shared that St. Thomas City Hall has supported Toastmasters even in its 95th anniversary in October 2015. So I thank you for your support in the past. I look forward to your continued support this year and for future years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your worship, just for the members' information, we will be dealing with the flag raising later in the meeting under petitions. But while I have this gentleman still here, may I have your name, sir, so I can put it in the minutes? Thank you.
Thank you.
The Worship Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee is strategic direction and development. First item relates to the City of St. Thomas strategic plan update. I have motion that report ADM 2823 relating to the City of St. Thomas strategic plan update for September 2023 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters.
Just a comment, Your Worship. I just encourage all of us, and I know we have been, but on our social media feeds to keep sharing. We, as I've said in my post to the public, that this is your opportunity to have a say of what you want your city to look like in the future. And it's very easy to sit back and complain, but if you really want to get involved and engaged and help to make a difference going forward, please take part in this process.
Yes.
It is so important, and I will keep sharing it until these meetings are held, but it's your city, St. Thomas.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Thank you, Councillor Peters. Well said and well needed. Let's continue to push the input from our citizens.
The next item relates to the municipal contribution to the YWCA at St. Thomas Elgin Tiny Hope Project update. I have a motion that report SESS 1323 relating to the request for a municipal contribution and an update for the Tiny Hope project be received for information, and further the council support the YWCA St. Thomas Elgin Tiny Hope project with a $3 million commitment contingent upon a successful application to the CMHC Co-Investment Fund and the remainder of the funds secured. And further, the council direct the mayor and clerk to prepare and execute a letter of support to be included in the application for co-investment funding through CMHC. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Macaulay.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey.
Thanks, your worship. When I read this report, I did some quick math, and I love, one of the things I love about this is it's an actual partnership.
Yes.
You know, like, and we are looking at paying about 20%, say. And in my mind, you know, the number of units that we get for that money, and you divide it by, you know, divide it out, and it's good for us. It's good for the community, and it represents a real partnership, not simply a give us your money and get out of the room. And I just want to thank Heather and Lindsay and everyone who's worked on this to make this work. I know it has not been easy, and I'm happy to be a part of this going forward, and looking forward to a finished project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wookey. Councillor Peters.
Thanks, your worship. I know our MP Karen Vecchio has worked hard advocating at the federal level, but you and I both understand sometimes how politics works. And I think if there's anything that we can do as a city, Lindsay, let us know. You and I sort of had a sidebar conversation about this previously, but we do have some MPs in London who are part of the government. And I think of Peter Fragiitis as one example.
Just promoted to Parliamentary Secretary of Housing.
So we need to get Peter down here and have him and Karen together. I know the federal house just went back today.
Yeah.
But we need him to come down here and see the good work that's been done. And to Councillor Wookey's comment that this is a partnership that we're prepared to be part of.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Peters. Further questions or comments? On the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously.
The next, actually 3 items relate to a committee of adjustment notices for meetings to take place on September 28th, 2023. The first one relates to an application for consent by Dane Rice to sever a lot of 180.8 square meters from 5 Isabel Street and add it to the adjoining property at 10 Drake Street. The second is an application for consent by Anna and Javier Vera to sever a lot with an area of 659.9 square meters at 238 Alma Street for future residential purposes. And the third one that came in after the agenda had been sent out is for an application for a minor variance by Matthew Steinman and KR O'Hora to permit the enlargement of a detached garage and construction of a storage shed accessory to the existing lawful non-conforming single detached dwelling at 123 Curtis Street. Your worship, unless there are any further items from the members under this committee, we'll move into community engagement and services. There's nothing appearing on the agenda unless there are any items from the members. Seeing none, your worship, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to the Upper St. Catherine Street parking lot improvements. I have a motion that report ES 5323 relating to those improvements be received for information, and further the council authorize staff to proceed with finalizing the engineering design and include the Upper St. Catherine Street parking lot improvements scope of work and associated costs as part of the Kane Street construction project. And further, the council direct that a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend traffic and parking bylaw 45-89 to include the additional 2-hour public parking spaces. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Counselor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Counselor Peters, I was looking your way.
Well, no, I sit on my back deck and I listen to cars rumble down the gravel road.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to this because anyway, I thank staff for their efforts in this. And the one thing I ask is that this, because of the budgetary approval process, this could be this time next year that this project is completed. And I understand that, but is there a way? I noted that the 2-hour parking was listed as a separate item. Is there a way that we can move forward with the bylaw amendment to at least initiate the 2-hour parking on a gravel road? And I look forward to the day that it's a paved road.
Mr. Engineer?
Through the mayor to Councillor Peters, that is the intent. We'll bring the bylaw forward so that we can make use of that space in its current state as the new facility gets underway.
Super. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to an unbudgeted capital expenditure relating to Transportation Master Plan refresh. I have motion that report ES 5223 relating to the Transportation Master Plan refresh be received for information, and further the council authorize $175,000 from the infrastructure reserve to undertake a refresh of the city's transportation master plan. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to Edgeware line closure. I have a motion that report ID 0123 relating to Edgeware line closure be received for information, and further the council authorize the closing of a portion of Edgeware line and direct staff to proceed in this regard. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters?
Thanks, Your Worship. I don't think I've ever been part of a road closure process. I'm just curious how do we make sure that emergency personnel, school buses, I'm sure the school buses already know it, but how do we make sure that because technically it's gonna, as someone who visited the site today with Justin, got to go out and way around, and just want to make sure emergency services are covered off.
I see an answer coming our way.
Through your worship to Councillor Peters. Yeah, we've chatting with fire and EMS police as well. So they're very much aware of the closure. It will also be advertised in the Times Journal for a period of time. So there'll be some public awareness through that process.
Great, thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to an industrial development update. I have a motion that report ID 0223 relating to industrial development update be received for information. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments on the update? Councillor Peters?
Thanks, Your Worship. I thank Justin for giving myself and Paul Jenkins and Chris Patrick a tour today. It was most informative. We took a look at the archaeological work that's ongoing, and it was quite interesting to see some of the items that are being found and that are going to be preserved for future generations out of the process. I did see the big rocks, the big pile of big glacial remains that have been left behind, and I do support Alderman Baldwin-Sands in her efforts to see what we can do to preserve those. But it really struck me. You can't, for anybody that drives around, you think, oh, I can drive up Highbury and go along Ron McNeil and then down Yarmouth Center Road, and you can get an appreciation for what's going on the site. You really can't unless you watch one of the Beehive videos. But just to see today the footprint of the VW plant starting to appear, and 1.7 kilometer long footprint. It's mind boggling to see. And I'm not encouraging anybody to go out to the site because it is an active working site and it is posted. But I did have my hard hat, boots and orange vest on. And but thanks for the tour today. It was most interesting.
Further questions or comments on the report? Councillor Wookie, then Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thanks. Two questions. A real simple one is like every time I drive by, you can see the diesel, the smoke up there, and they're working nonstop. Literally, I was on the weekend. It was like just before dark kind of thing, and they were working on it. And what's the status in terms of are they where they need to be right now? Are they a little ahead, a little bit behind? That's the first question. Second question is the roundabout that's going to be at South Edgeware going through the Hydro 1 yard. What's the timeline? Like, are we going to see that starting in the next 6 months, or what's going on with that one? Thanks very much.
Go for it.
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Wookie. Yeah, the first question in terms of the grading progress, that's through our partnership with Infrastructure Ontario. It's very much on schedule, and we have the ability to ramp up in terms of resources and time as well if we see it lagging behind. This week has been it's been great weather so far, and we see that continuing on. So that's what we really need to maintain the schedule, is that dry weather, so those earth moving processes can take place. Second question, the roundabout at South Edgeware and Hydro 1 yard. Yeah, that entire project, so all the way from Ron McNeil down to Centennial, we anticipate that starting spring of next year, and with substantial completion of the same year. There may be some finishing works that spill over into 2025, but you'll be able to drive on it by the end of the year. 2024 is the intention right now.
Jericho, please.
Just follow up. I'm just curious from the mechanics of this, who makes the call? Like, is it you guys who are saying you're behind and you need to call more resources, or is it strictly the contractor who lets you know that they're behind and calling more resources? Like, how would that work if it needed to happen? Thank you.
Yeah, there's a large team behind this project, not just with the three of us. There's a leadership team that meets monthly. As in terms of the grading, there's also monthly meetings that happen with that. There's about 5 inspectors on site full-time as well that are monitoring progress. So I would say there's a dozen different people that are very closely watching this thing and making sure that that call is made when it needs to be made. Yeah.
Thank you, Brent. Councillor Baldwin Sands.
My question was pretty much on the same line as Councillor Wookie, which is the very aggressive timeline that you have. And seeing the chart that you have enclosed in your report with all of the green that is attached to it, showing how much you are on schedule and where you need to be ramping up a little bit more. But knowing that you have those incredibly aggressive timelines that are being met, I just wanted to extend my congratulations to you and the entire team for the work that they've been doing there. And if you have any additional comments that you would like to make to us at this time.
No, appreciate the comment. Thank council for their continued support, and please do come for a tour whenever you like.
Thank you for the report, but there's nothing as excited as Michael and the Beehive. So, you'll have to up your game just a little bit.
Very much agree.
Thanks. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Your worship, unless there are any further items?
Councillor Wookie.
Thank you very much. A smoking bylaw question. I had a concerned citizen call this week, and what she was expressing is something that's going to happen more and more as we densify and people are moving closer together. There's going to be people smoking closer to other people's property. In this case, this person has asthma, and the neighbor's smoke was coming through the air exchange unit. Okay, and as we densify, that's going to be whether it's a duplex, whether it's towns, whatever the situation is, we're going to be seeing more of this. And I said I would ask on her behalf, and I have a question for staff. Hopefully, Mr. DeLebuck can talk about this a little bit about what powers do we and do we not have as a municipality regarding if we wanted to do something else regarding proximity of smoking. Granted, it's legal, you're on your property doing it. So, or whichever staff member might want to take that on. Where are we at with that? Thank you very much.
Bit of volunteer, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll put the newbie up front as the sacrificial lamb. So through the mayor to Councillor Wookie, I did ask some of my colleagues and we'll see if there was anything in the building code that we could leverage, but it's fairly silent. And we know that smoking prohibitions are a provincial matter. We do have a city bylaw that prohibits smoking in our open spaces and parks and our city facilities or housing establishments. But I'm not sure if our authority would be able to extend that onto private property, and especially in residential areas. So I'm not sure if we actually have the authority to do so.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Would we be able to find that out without having to make an expensive call to our legal staff? Or I'm just curious to see what, I just want to know whether it's in our purview, because if it's not, then it's a simple situation. And if it is within our purview, then it creates a question and without an answer right now. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through the mayor to Councillor Wookie, I think this one might look into the spheres of jurisdiction within the Municipal Act in order for us to be able to find that answer. If we still have questions as administration, we may make that phone call and then get that answer for you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Two items. One is the new roundabout at Centennial and Elm is a county, I guess 3/4 them and a quarter us. It looks like a jungle right now. Do we cut the 1/4 and keep it nice, or who's to be looking after that? It's a mess and it's a gateway to St. Thomas. And I'm just wondering whether or not we could get that looked at.
Kevin, you're getting all the good ones tonight. Have you cut your 1/4 of the roundabout yet? No, go ahead.
No, but I'll go and double check. Through the mayor to Councillor Clark, I'll go and look into that and see if we can't get our staff out there to tame the jungle a little bit.
Thank you. And the other item was had a few calls on the backlog of traffic on Centennial at Parkside. And I think it's especially bad right now.
On Sunset?
Or sorry, Sunset.
Right.
I think it's especially bad right now because Parkside is closed.
Right.
So they were asking whether or not, they were inquiring whether or not an advanced green could happen, even if it was for an hour in the morning when buses are trying to get in and an hour after school until Parkside Drive was open again. And they're wondering if that could happen.
And to our guest speaker this evening.
Through the mayor to Councillor Clark, we have made some traffic signal timing changes at that intersection, and we're monitoring it closely. If we need to further those advances, we'll do so until the project, Parkside project is completed.
When would, I guess if you could call the principal at Parkside and just let him know when you might be updating, if there was going to be any changes or when the status of it might change.
Through the mayor to Councillor Clark, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Do you have a finish date on the Parkside Drive work?
Actually, I'm not entirely sure what the project scheduled completion date is, but I do know it'll have to happen before the snow flies. But I can get back to you and circulate that.
Please, thank you. Other items under this committee? Seeing none.
Moving into corporate governance and administration, first item relates to the proposed 2024 budget for the Catfish Creek Conservation Authority. This item is on at the request of the members.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Worship. I attended the September meeting of Catfish, and staff had asked for some guidance so that they could start preparing a draft budget, and it was done in open session. And they prepared for us municipal levy increases of 9, 10, 11, 12, or 20% for the board's review. And I suggested 4.5 as a more appropriate approach, but that was defeated in a 4-1 recorded vote. So 9% was the draft budget figure that is going to be used by Catfish for now. And also at the September meeting, there was a request. They do a yearly update on wages. And so they were asking for a CPI increase of 6.5, I believe it was, and the board settled in at 3%. So over the last 4 years, in 2021, the staff had no increase because of COVID. In 2022, there was a 3% wage increase. 2023, a 6.5 wage increase. And so far, they have been directed to work on a budget at a 3% wage increase. That being said, the chair of Catfish asked us to go back to our individual councils to see if there was any appetite from the members to increase these figures. And so that's why it's on for tonight. I'll have to go back to the October meeting and find out or pass on from them whether or not St. Thomas was in favor of larger levy increases or larger wage increases. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, I'll add my part. We've asked each of the commissions that we levy or do levy to be as frugal as possible and come to us with from a negotiation point of view or a discussion point of view on their levy amount. So I thank Catfish Creek for coming to us. This is almost a shock in how large it is, though. So we'll, if you could carry back to them that's what we said. Councillor Woodkey.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm just reflecting on not just Catfish, but my mind's going outside of that. And to say that, you know, we're going to have struggles budgeting, obviously, as inflation continues to be what it is. There are going to be times where certain departments and units within the city are going to have above inflation increases just because whether it's a staffing bump up or whether there's whatever the case may be. So for me, it's always, and I agree that like if 9's the low number, then that's hard to swallow. But there's going to be times where certain departments, units, say the police services or whatever it is, might need something higher. So I appreciate them coming to us and trying and kind of explaining what the rationale, what the reason is for. And I would love to hear that from other boards that we sit on that are not units within the city as well, to say, you know, is there a material reason aside from negotiations that this is going up? Is there something we need to do? And we'd obviously be willing to listen because we want what's best and we are in the business of balancing out priorities and dollars. So I thank Catfish for doing this. Thank you.
Agreed. Further comments? Thank you for bringing that to us, Councillor Clark.
Your worship, if there's no further items under corporate governance and administration from the members. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole as recorded in the minutes of this date be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
No reports of committees this evening. We now move into petitions and communications. First item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising for Toastmasters Month. I have motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim October 2023 as Toastmasters Month in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Toastmasters International flag be flown at City Hall from October 2nd to 8th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Woodkey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Second item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from Family and Children's Services relating to Foster Family Week. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim October 15th to October 21st as Foster Family Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Family and Children's Services flag be flown at City Hall on October the 16th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Woodkey, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a letter received from the Downtown Development Board requesting that council declare the Downtown Oktoberfest event as a municipally significant event. I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a letter received from Ed Vandermeerl regarding the Elgin County Railway Museum property at 225 Wellington Street. And that concludes the items on under petitions and communications, your worship.
Councillor Peters, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I had a comment on it. Can we at least, I think Ed has made a lot of good points in that letter, and I think that there are things to consider. We had a bit of discussion last week at our meeting regarding this issue, and it seems like this severance has now all of a sudden really got the ball rolling on to talk about the railway lands that we haven't heard for a long time. But I would like to see Ed's letter at least referred to staff to report back, to lay out some of the, either to refute the comments that Mr. Vandermeerl makes or to support the comments that Mr. Vandermeerl makes, and lay out a game plan for us to move forward. If there's this much interest because of one parcel of land, we know all the different parcels of land and the various landowners that are involved in that project, and maybe there's a way that we can help to kickstart good, orderly redevelopment of those lands. So I would support sending this to staff.
All right. Councillor Wookie, yes? Yep. I'm seeing nods, so I think that that's what we can do. We can send it off for an answer, come back to council. Okay. Councillor Wookie?
I have an item of communication, on a different one, if we're done talking about that one.
Excuse me, your worship, we just got the motion on the floor that
Okay,
the
sorry.
letter from Ed Vandermeerl regarding the Elgin County Railway Museum property at 225 Wellington Street be referred to Planning and Building Services Department for a report.
Yes. So discussion on that first. We've had a little. Any more? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next.
Thanks, your worship. I had a communication this week it's always nice to hear from former students doing cool things. And in this case, Corey Ewert is involved, in one of the fastest growing sports around, that's cornhole. And what's happening is that they're having a provincial championship next year. And he contacted me to say that he's part of the organizing committee at the provincial level. And he's saying, we'd like to have this in St. Thomas.
Great.
And he was wondering how that would go about. So I just in a pedestrian way said, well, here are some of the things to do, but I referred him to Megan at Tourism and other people that have organized events that we know, and he's going to work on that. So everything from special events to booking things at hotels, all the things that have to happen for fairly large events to occur. So I just want to give that piece of communication as a good news story, as a St. Thomas native who wants to bring back an event here. So that was very good to talk to him. Thanks.
Our council grants may be another place where.
That's the
a
first thing he
request.
asked about, and I gave him the rundown on that. So
Okay.
he's I think got the application in hand already. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for the information. So let's get that to as many departments as we can and see what we can do. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, your worship. On Saturday, I had the honor of representing you at the Optimus Children's Festival,
Yep.
where they presented the city with a check for 58,000 for the refurbishing of Optimus Park. And that was through the Ferguson family donation.
Perfect.
And it was a great day. They must have given away 20 bikes to kids. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
happy faces.
Way to go, Optimus. We thank you, Optimus, for all that you do in our community, including Optimus Park. Further questions or comments? Next.
If there's no further items from the members under new business,
I have a couple, if you don't mind. I was happy to attend on behalf of the city to the new addition to the Agritech facility on Edward Street today. They did a $25 million expansion on making, see if I can get this right, controlled release fertilizer, so that less fertilizer can be used on crops, specifically corn in this case, because it releases the fertilizer part in a very controlled fashion. And so for that addition and a huge amount of partnership between Solio Agritech and the manufacturer of this from Alabama, or the people who and they chose St. Thomas to come and build this facility on a spot where I know we've all driven by it for years. And now there's another large piece of the plant there that makes this beautiful pink colored fertilizer. And I asked, and yes, it's colored like that on purpose, because as it dissipates, you can tell how it's doing. It's not a natural color in nature. So great for that one. One more for me yet. Kirkin of the Tartans was yesterday, and so in the Kirkin of the Tartans parade with the mayor of Central Elgin and I, and an awful lot of tartans and cadets and bagpipes to Knox Church, and to attend that. It's one of the kind of favorite Scottish events in our area, and so we did that one yesterday. Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. I was hoping you would provide council with an update on September the 30th and what is going to be happening, because this is our last chance to meet before September 30th.
Well, we have of course our normal proclamation that day. I'm thanking Councillor Clark, because he will be filling in for me. I will be in Washington, DC that day, but Councillor Clark will be filling in. And if you go into 304 right now, there's a whole bunch of painted rocks too as part of this that has happened here last week. And so looking very much forward to Orange Shirt Day or other names for the day on September 30th. And I am not going to be able to make it, but I know Councillor Clark will do a great job for us. Councillor Clark?
Worship, it seems rather ironic that when I think the federal house goes back today, that you were opening a slow release fertilizer plant. Thank you.
You're not the first person who made a politician connection to fertilizer. Thank you very much. It was used today well. Yes. Any other new business? Being none.
We'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws, moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Peters.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Peters, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 18th day of September, 2023.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 50-88, being the zoning bylaw for the city of St. Thomas. This is to permit 6 one-story detached dwelling units to be registered in vacant land condominium format at 21 Park Avenue.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Hayho Rentals Limited. This relates to property at 76 Cortland Terrace, 61 unit vacant land condominium.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fourth bylaw is a bylaw to temporarily remove certain lands from part lot control, being lots 1 to 5, 9, 12, 15, 17, 19 to 26, 28 to 30, and 63 to 67 on registered plan 11M 257, Harvest Run Phase 3.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Last bylaw, please.
Fifth bylaw is a bylaw to appoint an acting mayor, being Councillor Clark from September the 28th to October the 4th, 2023.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, it's carried. I rise and report the successful passing of 5 bylaws.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Peters, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 5 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time and gross, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? I knew that was my line, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I got it. Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No items under public notice. Under notices of motion, this evening, the members are receiving the notice of motion from Councillor Baldwin Sands regarding the installation of electrical vehicle charging stations in new single detached and multi-unit residential developments. And during next council meeting, we will put the motion on the floor. Your worship, at this time, there is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with 3 matters relating to a position plan procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, and a personal matter about identifiable individuals. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Macaulay.
Before we go to questions or comments in the vote, our normal practice is we would now go into closed session to address the items that have been mentioned. When we're finished with that, we'll come out of closed session to open session to pass what was happened in closed session or adjourn, and our meeting would be over. So to those folks at home watching, or those watching streaming online, thank you for tonight, and we will be now moving into closed session. Discussion or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.